USC at Oregon, 10:30 Eastern on Fox. Classic little caffeine special. Whatever you do, whether it's coffee, whether it's Red Bull, whether it's Rain Energy. I don't want to name too many different brands here because I don't think we have those sponsors. But even so, regardless of what you do to get your caffeine, make sure you got it stocked for this one. This is going to be a real good game. Oregon favored by 15. For Oregon, the College Football Playoff Committee has been very, very clear. You control your own destiny. And I think for Oregon, not only is that a big motivator, but I think for Oregon too, I don't know if they would ever tell you this. I don't know if anybody in that locker room would ever tell you this, but I think this is a tremendous opportunity for them to be differentiated from USC because from a macro level, there are still some people that believe Oregon is flashy and living on Phil Knight's money and just kind of, a little bit of a all glitz and glamour operation. And they take that brand and they group them right in there with what people believe USC is. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm just telling you, I think that's the perception of both of these operations. So for Oregon, I think they would love to walk out there and make a statement and say, if you think that we're anywhere in the same category in terms of how we do business, we're not. We're not. I saw a tweet the other day where Dan Lanning was allegedly on the loudspeaker saying, they're doing 7-on-7 in LA. They're doing walkthroughs in LA. And then he says, we're doing a full contact drill here in Oregon. They take pride in being tough, and I think they want to define themselves as a tough team in this kind of game against USC. Now, for USC, a lot of people selling stock on the Trojans. Not unreasonable. They're not making the college football playoff, which, again, we're told is the only thing that matters. Sidebar, we think there's a lot more that matters than just the college football playoff. They still have the Pac-12 title in their midst. That's still a very achievable thing for USC. And I'll tell you this, if you hold a tiebreaker over Oregon, something tells me when it comes down to whoever gets into that Pac-12 title game, that would be a very, very huge advantage to have. A win in Eugene for this team after having dropped the game against Washington and Alex Grinch being fired, this would be a total swing of the pendulum in morale. This would be huge for USC to kind of restabilize where they're at morale-wise, restabilize the psyche, and press on to finish the year. So with a line like this, with USC being a 2-touchdown dog on the road, we usually do this when we pick games like this. We got to give you our non-negotiables for USC to win this game. And for me, it's really pretty simple. Typically, we would say they have to have extra possessions and they have to be able to match pace offensively. And I think those things are all encouraged and you would like to have those. But for USC, my big non-negotiable is I need a USC team to show up. Need them to show up because I think they have the personnel offensively and defensively to hang with Oregon in some really key areas. But if they're not an engaged USC team, like if Washington just kind of took the life out of them and they say, man, that was just the last straw. We're done. Hey, white flag, we are going to mail it in. Then it's going to be a really ugly game in Eugene and Oregon will cover. But if they're able to kind of just say, you know what, we still have a lot to play for. Pac-12 title still attainable. Still a lot of good players on this team. We're not going out without a fight. Then I think they're going to give Oregon exactly that. And I think it'll be a real good game. So, question for me when it comes to how this game could shake out. No secret, Alex Grinch no longer the DC at USC. Brian Odom and Sean Nua are the interim co-DCs for this game. And I just can't help but wonder, did the pressure bubble burst at USC on the defensive side of the ball? Because it felt like really even since that first game against San Jose State, there was this looming rain cloud and this question of what's up with the defense? What's up with Alex Grinch? Are they going to waste Caleb Williams? Are they going to make the college football playoff? And you wonder if just losing that game last week, I'm sure it hurt. Nobody ever plans or hopes or thinks losing a game is ever a good thing. But you wonder if maybe that loss just kind of burst the pressure bubble. Alex Grinch no longer there, burst the pressure bubble for all parties involved. Not that this defense didn't want to play for Alex Grinch, but now you kind of hit the reset button, have a fresh start, and the pressure of the college football playoff is no longer on the shoulders of this defense. Nobody's waiting every single Sunday morning to write their column about how USC's defense is so bad, and that's why they're not going to have Caleb Williams in the college football playoff. Just curious if that's maybe the USC defense we see. Not saying they're just night and day different, but if we see improvement and we see just a incremental improvement or just a small gain from them and they get a few stops, that offense, we know what they can do. we know what it is when you got Caleb Williams playing quarterback for you. Like, if they can just improve a little bit, I think you kind of sit back in your chair watching that game as a USC fan. You say, all right, here we go, boys. Going to be a late one. Going to be a good game. Got to stay up for all 4 quarters of it. Now, if it's not, if it's the same USC defense we've seen from the last couple of weeks that's allowing 35 points a game, well, Bo Nix will pick it apart like a bad dinner. Too multiple, too dynamic. I think they're too experienced on that side of the ball for Oregon to play with their food. So if USC shows up with that same defense from last week, expect them to run for over 200 yards, expect Bo Nix to put up big numbers and have his little Heisman moment if you're Oregon against USC. I say little. I don't think it'd be that little. I think it'd actually be a pretty big statement. We'll talk more about that later in this live show. Other question now, the Oregon front 7 against Caleb Williams. And it kind of sounds like a simplistic matchup, but what it comes down to for me is what we see on paper versus what could happen in reality. Because on paper now, like, Oregon should dominate USC up front. USC has been pretty lackluster offensively protecting Caleb Williams. Oregon has a 9% sack rate, top 20 in the country. So if they get after Caleb Williams and they make USC one-dimensional, they're going to roll. And that spread will be covered, and Oregon will just be dominant up front. That's what it looks like on paper. In reality, that could very well happen. The question I have now is there's no quantifying what Caleb Williams can mean for you as an offense. And what I mean by that is, like, Caleb Williams is a generational talent. We will never see another player like him again in college football. Not that we won't still see great quarterbacks that are dual threats and can do really great things when they ad-lib. I'm just saying there is one Caleb Williams, and he's playing college football right now. So 1, let's enjoy him. 2, there's no quantifying what he could mean to a game. And we said the same thing about Anthony Richardson a year ago in week 1 where they played Utah. The thought was Utah's the better team. Utah's better up front. But Anthony Richardson, if he puts the cape on that day, that might just be the difference. And I think that's the same strategy. That's the same potential you have here for USC. Yeah, USC's probably outmanned up front. Yeah, a lot of the matchups probably favor Oregon. But if Caleb Williams throws that cape on and just decides, like, you know what, it's my day. When you play a lot of hero ball, at some point in time, you end up being the hero. Like, we've seen Caleb Williams scramble left and throw back across his body and throw a pick, and it be just, the sky falling in Los Angeles. But to the same token, like, you only do those things on a semi-routine basis if you're Caleb Williams, if they work a semi-routine amount of the time. And so for Caleb Williams, again, if he's able to be the hero, that could just be it. That could just be the differentiating factor for USC. Now, again, if he doesn't, if Oregon gets after him and those numbers hold true, going to be a very long day, and Oregon will roll, and they'll cover that 15. So here's the mic drop here for me. Here's the toughest part about this game when we come to picking it. USC is allowing 186 yards on the ground. Oregon is top 3 in the country in yards per carry, somewhere north of 5.5 yards a game, or 5.5 yards a carry, rather. My issue is you don't just stop the run. You don't just fix your run-stopping defense overnight. Even if you switch DCs, even if there's a whole new thought process defensively, when you're in November, even with whatever staff changes you make, like, I think you are who you are as a defense. And stopping the run, like, takes a little bit of juice from you. Takes a little bit of that edge. And I don't think you just develop that in week 11 of the college football season. And so with how physical Oregon is up front, I think that both offensively and defensively, they're going to be able to control the line of scrimmage. I think they're going to make USC one-dimensional. I think they'll take away USC's ability to run the football, and they'll put it all on Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, I think, again, can make this game very interesting, but the experience of Oregon, especially with Bo Nix playing quarterback, the level they're operating at right now offensively, and the internal focus they have, there's no letdown from this Oregon team. I think Oregon rolls here. I think Bo Nix has a Heisman moment, and I think they get it done, scoring a lot of points. Final score, 45-27. So for USC, it's a tough punch to take the second week in a row. For Oregon now, I think we just continue to get verification that this is who they are. Week in and week out, they're going to play at roughly the same level. They're going to give you what they've told you they're going to give you in terms of playing physical up front. Bo Nix is going to be calm, cool, and collected and put up big numbers, and that's just kind of how this whole thing shakes out. So, again, we like Oregon to win. I don't know if I like the -15 just with Caleb Williams. That always feels iffy to me. But get the caffeine ready. Get ready to enjoy this one. I think it'll be a good game. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.